As programmers, one of the things that we all deal with every single day is lots of information, from individual courses to specific knowledge around languages and frameworks that we use on our serious and less serious projects that we build with our coding skills. And it doesn't even end there. There's stuff around Leetcode, around job applications, and there's just so much for us to know and to keep track of, which can become really overwhelming. And this is exactly what happened to me. When in the beginning I was really excited about everything and I loved learning this new skill, at some point it got to the point where I felt like I was learning one thing, but then I was forgetting another thing. I wish that there was one place where I could just house all the knowledge and all of the concepts that I had gathered in my journey as a developer. And so today, after months of work, I have created this system, and I called it Developer's Brain. Developer's Brain is a productivity system specifically designed with programmers in mind that is hosted in Notion. It's especially designed with beginners in mind to give you the tools that you need to not only be as productive as possible as a programmer, but to organize everything around your life as it relates to coding in one place. I can set tasks for the day or schedule them later following the exact methodology used at established software development companies. I can house all my project ideas in one place and seamlessly follow the best practices to build a project from scratch. You have ways to store and track your job applications, guides on how to use LinkedIn, and much more, all of which I'm now going to show you in this brief run through of what you can find inside of Developer's Brain. And by the way, if you choose to get this exact template that I'm going to show you right now, of course it will be fully customizable for you to take it to the exact place to make it your Developer's Brain, your home for your programming life. But now let's talk about what I have in here. So when I open Developer's Brain, here is what I see. I've gone for a very sort of minimalistic look to this entire thing because that's the sort of look that I usually prefer. And having a very clean interface to house everything in here just makes it a lot more sort of cozy and makes me want to come back to this place later. So for me personally, that's a really important thing. So we've got Developer's Brain. There's sort of different sections here relating to different parts of a programmer's life. First of all, we've got tasks and productivity that allows you to track your tasks as a programmer when it comes to learning, when it comes to projects. And then you've got this review calendar, and by the way, we'll go into all of these in detail in a second. Then you've got my projects hub, which is used to house all of your projects as a programmer, from more serious to less serious ones. We've got the career hub for all your job applications, for your interview prep, and some resume templates that you will also get as part of this for completely free. Then we've got my learning hub, which is going to be particularly important for those of you in your beginning stages where you're perhaps just doing courses and you want to keep track of them, you want to take notes and just house them all in one place. This is going to be the place for you. And I've also included lots of developer roadmaps, so like pre-built templates for you to go from zero to a specific kind of developer job. So you've got access to all of that as well. And then finally, we've got my knowledge hub, which is used to house all your nodes. So just start building your own hub of documentation, like around all of the things that you have specifically learned in your programming life. So that's the high level. And then at the top, we've got quick links that you can basically use to link to the most important pages for you. So for example, for me, I've got link to my learning path, my projects tracker, so like all of the things that I use the most. And you can of course then just go and add additional links by just adding something in here. Maybe you want to link this page, you can go in here and then copy link and paste it in here and click on link to page, and then that is going to be added to your quick links. And then we've got this toggle of today's agenda that's basically going to show you all the tasks that are due today, and it's going to show you all the review calendar tasks that are going to be due today. I'll show you in a second how this all works. So we should just start going through all of these one by one. First is just go to learning, because that's going to be the place where most of you start when you're learning to code. So if you click on it, we have my learning path. We can essentially add all the courses that you're currently doing and the courses that you want to do. The problem that I had in my own learning journey is that once I started doing a lot of courses, because by the way, you sort of have to do a lot of them, especially if you want to learn stuff like computer science and stuff like this. You can add courses in here, so you can sort of plan out what courses you want to do and add them to your backlog. And whenever you create a new page, it's gonna allow you to input a name, and then once you go inside of the page, then you can fill out a couple of these properties, like what are the languages that you will be learning, what's the platform where this thing is going to be hosted. So you would do that, and then to start writing notes to your course, you can click on this template, course notes template. That's going to automatically give you a template that I have made myself. Like at the end of the course, you want to fill out like what are the top things that you learned. It's going to give you these templates for course notes for different modules that you want to then rename, obviously, to what are the actual modules inside of that course. Instead of the projects and exercises, you can embed GitHub links for the projects and the tasks and the homework that you complete for that particular course. And then any other materials, you can embed PDFs in here and a bunch of other stuff. And obviously then you can go and customize this and add, like, basically the goal of this is to house everything you need relating to this one course just on this one page. So you have it in one place. You don't have it scattered around like 5 different notes apps and maybe your file system, like all this kind of stuff. And then once you're planning your order, you can add things to the next stage. These are the courses that I'm doing right now. And then obviously we've got done. And let's say you decide that actually I don't want to do one of these courses. I decide, okay, Django for everybody isn't really important anymore because the Python Developer Masterclass teaches Django as well. So you can just go and put it on abandon / on hold or something that you might want to do in the future, but you probably won't. So it's just going to be separated out. And if any of these you don't want to actually see what's inside of here, so you want to hide it, you can click on these 3 dots and then click on hide, so you don't have to actually look at what are the abandoned courses, but you still want to keep track of them just in case. And then you can choose the view based on what you're interested in. If you want to look at them as a list or as a board, I personally like to look at them as a board because it's more visually tells me like what am I doing now, etc, etc. Then going back to the dashboard, we have developer roadmaps, which is basically these like full-on guides to, let's say you want to become a full-stack Python web developer. You just click on it. It's going to give you step-by-step, like my recommended courses. Now, of course, these are by no means the only options. There's like a million different options to all of these. But if I were to learn any of these given paths myself from scratch, this is the exact path I would choose. So like step by step. So if you just want a pre-built template for what you need to learn in order to get a job and to get basically job ready in any of these given paths, you can just literally like blindly follow all of these. And the cool thing that I've added in here is that, let's say you choose, like you read through these and you choose like, yeah, I'm gonna want to become a full stack JavaScript developer. Rather than manually having to now go to the learning path and add these courses, you can just click on these buttons. Like let's say in here, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this course. You can just click on add to path. And then once you go in here, you open, it's now going to be automatically inside of your learning path. And now by default, it's gonna have no status. So it's gonna be in here. And then you just add a status to it. Let's say, okay, this is next, and then platform is going to be 0 to mastery, etc. And now it's going to be in here. So that's just like a cool feature that I was able to do in Notion. So there's a bunch of these roadmaps in here and more probably coming in the future. Now going into my tasks and productivity. So this is probably going to be the thing that you interact with the most on a daily basis. So first of all, we've got a task manager in here. What you can do in here is like basically any tasks relating to your learning or relating to your projects, you can just create new entries in here. So for example, in here, we've got finish CS50 week 3, you can add a due date, and then you can link to the course that it is related to, which is really cool, or link to the project that it is related to if it's a project related task. And then if you don't want to look at all of your tasks and every day you just want to look at what tasks do I have today, that is why I have added these different views into today's agenda, which is just going to be on your homepage. So the idea here is when you arrive inside of developer's brain, so you're like, first thing that you do in the morning, you can open this toggle up and see today's task. So this is filtered so that it only shows you the tasks that are due today. So you can only, okay, right, today I need to do these things. And then you can just like laser focus on these things. When you click on them, it's just going to disappear from the view. So you can just like go through, like I find this very satisfying, just like going through different tasks and like checking them off and then like having a clean slate at the end of the day. The other thing in here is something called review calendar. And this is really cool. And this is because I wanted to build developer's brain not only to like organize your life and things like this, but to also like build in a lot of these productivity and learning strategies and techniques that are based on science that I've learned through the years. And one of these strategies that's probably the most effective one out of all of them is something called spaced repetition. So basically what it means that you want to be coming back to on regular intervals to topics that you have learned before if you want to retain them. The problem with a lot of this is that we sort of forget to do it and we sort of like neglect it. So I built this review calendar specifically to automatically like build this in basically. And go in here, right, there's a topic, Python multi-threading. This is important, right? And I want to come back to it and I want to review it 3 times because it turns out like 3 times is a good amount of time to review it. And basically you want to do it so that the first interval is like quite soon, but the second time you review it doesn't have to be as soon. But you don't want to be like manually trying to remember this because you're just not going to, right? So you can just add the date that you added this. So I added this today, June 25th, and it's going to automatically give you the dates when you should be reviewing this topic. And then the cool thing is that once you've added in here, you ideally don't need to look at this view. When you just open up today's agenda inside of your homepage, it's now automatically gonna show up for you. If like today is one of the dates when you should be reviewing it, it's gonna show up in here. Now, currently we don't have any, but let's say this was added, I think I need to put it like 23rd. That would mean that the first review is today, June the 25th. Now, once I open this, it's gonna show up. It's gonna tell me like, right, today I need to review Python multi-threading. So you don't need to manually try to remember this. You can just automatically know it, which is pretty cool. Next up, we are moving on to the My Projects Hub. And so if you've spent any time listening to my videos, my content, my ramblings on YouTube, you'll know that I am of the strong opinion that building projects is the most important part about learning to code, becoming a programmer, and getting a job. So that's why I've spent a lot of time like thinking about how can I not only allow you to organize your projects, but also aid you in like having the best practices in mind from the get-go when you are building projects. So starting off here, we have the project tracker, which starts off with a similar view as for the courses, where you can track your projects, you can house any of your ideas. So anytime you have an idea, you can just go in here and create a new project idea. And then once you start working on them, you can move on them in progress and then to complete it. But this is really not where a lot of the value is, because when you create a new project, let's say in here, I'm gonna create a project about like a tab manager, for example. Then when you click on coding project template, this is going to open up this kind of view in here where a lot of stuff is happening. First of all, we have a ticket board where you can essentially create tasks, so what we call as tickets in the software development world, around the things and the features that you want to build in the projects and like bugs that you want to fix and things like this. So what you can do is create a new one, like create UI, then add all the same attributes that you could for the task manager before. And there's a cool thing that happens here. Let's say we have a due date of the 25th, priority of number 1. Now, once I go back to my main views and to my task manager, it actually comes up in here and it's automatically now linked to the project that it's related to. So first of all, you can just manage the tasks relating to any given project. So when you're working on this tab manager project, ideally what you'll have is this page is open for you. Like you have this page open at all times to house everything you need relating to this project. You can work with the different tasks, the different tickets that you want to make relating to that project. But then the next day when you come back and let's say you set that for today, you wanted to create this UI for the project, you go in here, it also shows up in your general task manager. So all of these tasks are still integrated into the same database. So you don't have to then separately go to the project page or anything like that to find out what you had to do for that specific project in that given day, which is pretty cool. So that's the ticket board. In here, we have the GitHub repo. So where you're going to be housing your code. Again, here you would just click on it and add the URL. So then again, every time you open up the project, you can just open this one page. And then from this one page, you can go to the code, you can go to the tasks, you can go to a Figma file that maybe has some of your designs if you use Figma, your app architecture, which actually like this comes into the like things that you want to be doing when you're building at least like a slightly more complex project. You want to actually do something to like design the architecture beforehand. I use this app called Figma, and as you go into Figma, I will do something like this where I will like draw up the diagram of like the high level architecture of how this project is going to work. And this is like a really important step in the beginning of building out the project. So again, inside of developer's brain, inside of this project base, you can just link it so you don't have to like manually go and find it, because if you do that, you'll probably forget about it and things like this. So everything will be linked in here. Same for the designs, whatever you use Figma. If you use designs at all, you might not need to if it's a simple project, but all of this, again, it's going to be housed in the same page. And again, any other tutorials / resources you find that are helpful for this particular project that you learn along the way, you can add them in here for you to come back to later by just clicking on it and then adding a page. Or if you have specific documents, you can go /PDF, for example, and that's going to allow you to embed a PDF from your computer to be housed in this project page. And then I've got one last thing in here that's going to be helpful whenever you're starting out a project. If you turn on this toggle for different kinds of languages and frameworks, it's like a quick guide for you to get started. Let's say you're starting out a React project and you don't remember like the commands to start up a new project, what you should do. Quick start just housed in here so you don't have to manually go look for it. Same for Django, and I'm gonna add more in here, Node.js, Flask, etc. And you can just get started like that and start coding straight away. So that is the project page, and every time when you're creating a new project, just by clicking on the coding project template, you can basically start with this starting point every single time. And if you want to customize any of these templates, by the way, what you can do is when you're creating a new page, you can click on, rather than clicking on this, you can click on these 3 dots and then click on edit, which is going to allow you to edit this template. So now every time you open up a new page with this coding project template, it's going to have your template in it. If there's something that you want to add, something perhaps in here that's not right for you, you can customize all of this very easily using Notion. But that's not everything that you get with the project section, because you also get 40 project ideas. So you go in here for different categories. I've just added for you a bunch of different project ideas that are very good, for example, for your resume, to showcase your skills to employers, and most importantly, you do become better at programming, the step-by-step instructions on like how to get started, a bunch of ideas. So like literally you don't have the excuse of not having project ideas to start with. Although obviously, as always, I recommend you actually pick your own project. The last thing we have is the coding business idea framework. So let's say you are actually interested in building a proper startup, or maybe even not, but you wanna like from the get-go think about how could you build a project that actually has some potential to maybe become a software as a service business. There's actually a lot of things outside of the code. Like the code is not even the most important thing in that case. So I've added this coding business idea framework that you can basically go through for every single one of your ideas, and that's gonna like explain to you like what you need and like give you the right framework to think about it from the start. It's based on a lot of stuff I've learned from my business coach and my own experience of now working on like 2 different startups. So I definitely recommend that you look at this every time you're working on a project. So that's the projects hub. Now going into my knowledge hub, and this is pretty simple. So essentially this is like a categorized way for you to like house all of your notes around programming. Let's say you're learning JavaScript and you learn about the async functions. Thing about it is a really important topic, but unless you like write down the things that you learn, you're probably not going to remember it. So you might want to, every time you learn like an important thing, you might just want to open up this notes page and add a note to the relevant section. And by the way, for any of these in Notion, if you go to the top right corner and you click on pin this page to your sidebar, it's then going to be saved as a shortcut on your Notion workflow. So in here, you've got developer's brain. Inside of this favorites tab in here, everything that you've added as a favorite is going to be in here. You can see for me, we've got the task manager, and now my notes and docs. It says this is something that you want to come back to very frequently. Instead of just always coming through the main window, you might just want to add it to your sidebar in here. So that's like a thing that you might want to do. And now relating to these notes and also relating to these tasks, instead of having to open up the notes page and add a note from here, what you can do is if you're on this main page, you just click on one of these buttons in here. So create new note. If you just click on it, it's automatically going to create you a page inside of this main notes database. So now you can create the note and then add the tag from here. Let's say electron. Now it's automatically just gonna be inside of your notes. So that's pretty cool. Same thing for tasks. If you don't want to like open this up and a new task, to make it as easy for you as possible, if you're just doing something, you can just go in here and create a new task, which is then gonna create the new task automatically inside of the database, just like that. So just like making everything as easy for you as possible, I find it really helps with productivity. Last but not least, we have my career hub. So those of you who are serious about like getting a job as a developer, there's a bunch of resources in here to help you basically. First of all, we've got a job applications tracker. So if you open it up, again, all of these, if this is really important to you right now, you're applying for jobs, you might want to just save it and pin it to the sidebar, so you always have access to it from there. What this has, you can upload your current resume, cover letter, and portfolio. So every time you're applying, you just grab them from here very easily. And then every company that you have applied to, you can create a page in here. Let's say for Google, you can set the priority of the job role, the exact role that you've applied for, the status of the application. And when I was personally applying for jobs, I had a very similar template, like a tracker that I used just like this in Notion. I ended up with like 40 applications and eventually like 1 acceptance. This is another thing that if you don't keep track of where you've applied to, what companies you have scheduled interviews with, what companies you have emailed to keep track of and maybe follow up, it's going to become very overwhelming. Things you can add, the type of the job, the salary, if they listed it, etc. Going back and inside of the career hub, we have this thing in here, which is going to be super helpful for those of you preparing for technical interviews. If you open it up, what you can see is, first of all, there's a short guide on how to prepare for coding interviews in here, with like, again, step by step, what resources you should do, everything like this. But once you've gone through it once, you don't need it anymore, so you can just keep it toggled off. And then what we have in here is there's the thing called the 75 blind Leetcode questions list. That's like commonly accepted as the list of questions that you need to master if you want to get a job as a junior software engineer. All you really need to do is master these 75 questions, because they go through the concept, like pretty much all of the concepts that you would need to know. So again, just to like not be overwhelmed, this one list is what you need to know. There's a link to the original article, but what I've done in here is, first of all, again, there's a guide. There's like a certain framework that I use that I don't have time to go through in this video, but there's a link to an unlisted video on my channel where I go through like a very specific framework on how to approach all of these problems. So that's going to be there that you can access via this toggle. And then for all of these 75 questions that are categorized based on what they are relating to, we have the question itself that you can find by clicking on the link. And then as you do them, you can like check them off. But the cool thing in here, I've also added the solutions. And by the way, this took me so long to do. Like this, if you use this and some of these solutions don't work, just like send me an email or comment or whatever, and I'm gonna go and fix it. But they should all work. They should also all be optimal solutions. Don't look at the solutions before you've properly tried and basically before you've probably followed this framework that I list out in here that you should be following for every single one of these problems. After that, at some point, if you don't get it, you can look at the solutions and understand them just like that. Last but not least, we also have software engineer resume templates. So when it comes to building a resume, there's no point in you trying to go and manually figure out like how to build a good resume, because there's like so many small like things that you just don't want to spend time on. Like, wow, how much
padding should you have like between sections? Like,
how should you order the sections? Like, what color should you, like all of these, like not what we should be spending time on as professionals and as software engineers. There's a couple of templates that just always work, that are proven to work, that I've used, that I've told my coaching clients to use. And they just like look great. You then don't have to think about ever, so you can just focus on the content. So in here, I'm also gonna add like a full-on guide on how to make a great resume. I realized I didn't add it in here yet. But then in here, we've got this template that you can just access. A couple of them are in Google Docs, so you can just do it, duplicate it, and then build your resume based on that. Or if you prefer to use Canva, which I personally actually prefer, again, we've also got Canva template for you that are a lot more like visual in many different ways. So you can pick any of these, just pick one, stick to it, and yeah, got a couple of options for you that again like proven to work, like proven to like pass whatever screening software, everything like this that you get access to as part of this. So now that is the system that I've like basically from everything I know about learning programming, everything I know about productivity, about learning, I've tried to build it all into this one system so you don't have to like jump between 5 different things like most people do. Like, whatever you do, like you should have a system. You should have some sort of system to house your project, your learning, your notes, and like your tasks basically. And this is the sort of system that I wish I had from the very first day that I started learning code, and now I've built it up into this one template. Again, it's based on Notion. What happens if you choose to purchase this is that you're gonna get this link, and then in the right hand corner, you're gonna be able to click on duplicate, which is gonna then bring it into your own Notion, and from that point, like it's yours from that point, and you can do whatever you want with it. So that is that. I hope it helped you. Scroll down below if you wanna check out this template, and I will see you inside, hopefully.